Welcome to one and all. Stanford Graduate School of Business, which is widely regarded as one of the most selective business schools in the world, has a LEAD program. That LEAD is an acronym for Learn, Engage, Accelerate, and Disrupt. Today, we come together to discuss the opportunities for MBA students. Let them learn, engage, accelerate, and disrupt. Welcome to one and all to the 25th episode of My Career, My Identity series. Have you ever closely observed children's daily life managerial skills? Children manage their time, organize their studies. They have a great interactive organizational exposure to playground. Children's piggy banks and their savings are very crucial. Children market their ideas and they make others believe their narratives. And the peer management and teamwork are awesome among children. These skills are fundamental to management studies. Organization, communication, financing, management, marketing are the synonyms for the same. Peter Drucker, the founder of modern management, speaks about how humans are naturally organized across business, government, and non-profit sectors of society in his famous writings. We need to enable individuals to carry out the functions of planning, organizing, directing, leading, coordinating, and controlling in an effective manner. Students should inculcate and achieve skills like solving problems analytically and creatively and managing conflicts. Peter Drucker has said, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. We need our youngsters to be passionate leaders to become managers who are responding to the real, present, and future necessities of Earth, human beings, and society. The purpose of a business is to create a customer. Sales and marketing are not just diplomatic communication and selling. Now, they are so much associated with artificial intelligence, data science, and media dynamism. IIM Bangalore has behavior science lab to study the customer behavior and practices. There are neurocentric studies which are aimed to boost the marketing strategies. Now, marketing and sales are very much local, online, simultaneously global. The technical integration and research are very much part of it. It should be the aspiration of every management student to tap possibilities and get into the networks of global market. Also, it is to be marked, as Peter Drucker pointed out, more business decisions occur during lunch and dinner time than at any other time. Our youngsters need more social and engaging platforms of academics. Management schools have cutting-edge innovative methods, exposure to best practices of the industry, and effective learning. So, potential leaders are prepared for the global context. There is constant commitment to improvement. That is the aspiration for the marketing field. MBA program provides future business leaders with a sound marketing knowledge of policies, procedures, and practices that govern business and social operations, and in turn allows them to understand and control organizational growth. Managers at the different levels possess different skill sets and knowledge, but they must all understand how business operates on a short-term and long-term basis. Lee Iacocca has challenged MBAs and he has said, MBAs know everything, but understand nothing. Studying different subjects may not prepare students as a real MBA. Learning management is a thriving adventure. Children with their siblings and peers at their playground learn to organize, manage, and market ideas and products. These skills have to be developed, and real leaders have to emerge from MBAs. All the best for the same. Most those who run big companies come out of sales and they come out of marketing, and they are quite serious, and they have MBAs from very good schools, and they are not accidental CEOs. We have today a special guest who has been very clear about his path of success. He is Mr. Tony Chadu. He has been into the area of management as a faculty and a practicing head of various international organizations. His dedication is to the core values and humanity is well known. His service, teaching, leadership are meant to find the best solutions and directions for the upward movement of humanity. He had his studies from IIM Kozhikode, and he has been a faculty for management students for Christ Deemed University Ghaziabad and of Asia Pacific Management Institute Delhi. He served in Indian Air Force, and currently he is heading the operations of Tenon Company USA in India, also with IPC India. He has received APJ Abdul Kalam Excellence Award for outstanding contributions in the field of business and nation building. A teacher, a leader, and a problem solver. Thanks, Mr. Tony Charur, and welcome to this episode of My Career, My Identity.
Thank you, Reverend Father Dr. Benny Palat. Thank you very much for inviting me onto this platform. And thank you everyone who is present on this platform. I think I had a fair share of a very decent introduction from Father Benny. I don't know whether I fit into all that acronyms, all that adjectives that he has attached to me. But anyway, thank you, Father. When you generally go into management classroom, people I find students not very sure of pursuing a sales career. I am not able to figure that out. Most of the people that I ask, they would like to pursue a career in marketing. Though marketing and sales are more or less very intertwined, but they both are very distinct functions. People sometimes look at marketing as sales or sales as marketing, but they are very, very distinctive functions. Marketing is to create demand, whereas sales is to bridge the gap between demand and supply. I'm sure all the participants here, there are around 62, 63 participants as of now, 61. So I am sure they would know the difference between marketing and sales. Having said that, let's understand why the topic today is leadership through sales. And let's also understand why this program Father Benny has named it as My Career, My Identity. I think for most of the people, and I think for majority of them, their career is their identity, and it is well said so. And so I think it's a very, very suitable topic. My career, or the naming is very correct, because the career is one's identity. The career gives you a designation, a social recognition, and also a kind of respect. So it's important that we look at our careers with that kind of an importance. One. Secondly, when we are coming to the topic of today, that is leadership through sales, I'm not just going to dwell around the topic of sales. I'm more interested about, I mean, showing it as a path to, I mean, your leadership, where to, I mean, your leadership function. Look at, I mean, the great leaders, be it in the social arena or in the corporate, I mean, business leaders, be it, I mean, Steve Jobs, or be it, I mean, Narayan Murthy, be it, I mean, Sundar Pichai, or say Nadella. All of them are, I mean, into sales. There is no point in, I mean, in your, career or in your, business engagement that you can be devoid of sales. So that, I would like to keep that as a foundation. And I would like to, I mean, start my, presentation. I'll share my screen now. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. Am I audible?
Yes. Both. Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
You need to, I mean, keep prompting me, otherwise
Yes.
I would lose my steam. So
Yeah.
it's important that, I mean, I get some kind of a response from people. So we start our first slide. The first slide, I mean, I thought I would keep something like this. This is from Steve Jobs. And he says the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are those who actually do it. So it's important that, I mean, you might think that, I mean, you have a crazy idea, but I mean, if you are conceived, if you are really having the conviction about your idea, I think, I mean, that idea would be really powerful. Look at, I mean, Christ, or say any leaders, historic leaders, religious leaders. They all have started with a crazy idea, including, I mean, Steve Jobs. People thought that, I mean, they are crazy people, because, I mean, people thought about Christ as a crazy man because he was not heeding to the powerful and the rich at that point in time. Whereas, I mean, he was, taking people from, different, I mean, walks of life, fishermen, taxmen as his, disciples, and then making them as leaders. So, all of them had their own, I mean, crazy ideas about, I mean, leadership. And I think, I mean, this is very important that, I mean, you have your own idea, and maybe you are, a little crazy about it. As Paulo Coelho, I mean, puts it, in his book Alchemist, that, I mean, if you really would like to, I mean, go after something with all your, I mean, will, with all your heart, with all your soul, the entire world will conspire. So believe in yourself and believe in the idea that you have, however crazy that idea is. Let's come to, I mean, the next slide. We here have a very interesting, I mean, definition here, which, or say, about leadership. Leadership is both a research area and a practical skill, encompassing the ability of an individual, group, or organization to lead, influence, or guide other individuals or teams or the entire organizations. So here, I would like to, I mean, all of you to, I mean, put a critical, I mean, focus on the word influence here. It's very important that, I mean, you have a sphere of influence, when you lead a team. And how do you influence your team? This is because it's a very tangible term. How do you actually influence your team? Anyone has any suggestions from your side? We will keep this as an interactive kind of platform, because I don't want to prescribe here anything. I don't want to, I mean, dictate, or I would like to, I mean, throw off some solutions, because I don't think that, I mean, there is there doesn't exist any single solution to becoming a leader, or to, I mean, there is no prescription to give you, you practice this and you will be a leader. So I would like to keep this as an interactive platform. Any one of you think that, I mean, what can influence people? We would keep it as an interactive, I mean, a discussion, an interactive, I mean, session. So in case, I mean, you have any ideas about, I mean, how to influence people, you can, suggest that.
Talk.
The charismatic characters of the person, leader.
Okay.
Good communication skill of a leader.
Very nice. Anyone else?
Listening. skill of a
Very good, very good. Yeah. Let there be more ideas. I mean, let me understand what you think about, I mean, how you can influence people. Because this is very key understanding. And if you do not understand how do I influence, what, trait of my character can be influential, or what actually can influence a large, team of, professionals, or maybe, a crowd, or maybe, a population, or maybe a country or a nation, so please let me, know your thoughts. Please share your thoughts. What do you think, can influence people? Anyone else? Fine. I think some of the thoughts that you shared are absolutely right at it. You need to have a charismatic personality, but that is not a very very important. Because charisma is again is on your character. So your personality or your charisma comes from the core traits of your character. But somebody has told me the person has to heed to counsel. He need to listen to people. Very, very important. And somebody,
innovative,
pardon me?
Innovative, creative.
Yeah, innovative, creative. Anyone else? Please make it as an interactive platform. Otherwise, what would happen is, you would lose interest. I don't want to keep it as a monologue. Yeah. So the person has to be creative. The person has to be, having good communication or articulation skills. Yes. Anyone else?
A leader should understand the person's feelings and should have more empathy on others.
Absolutely. This is also very important. Very important factor, wherein you need to know how the other person thinks about things. Because
Problem
you need
solving.
to, yeah, you need to know his belief systems. Yes. Anything else? Somebody was saying
Reduce the conflicts.
reduce the conflicts. Fine. So in nutshell, we would come to the crux of it. I think, what is most important is, what is your integrity, as an individual. Integrity doesn't just, relate to honesty. That's a foundation. The integrity in terms of, your disciplined hard work, your dedication, integrity, towards, your colleagues, integrity towards, your team members. So integrity is such a wide sphere. It is not just about, the honesty part of it. So one is the person has to be of impeccable integrity, where people can trust him, people can, really believe him. So this is very important. The first part of it, the integrity. The second, you somebody has told, it is the communication skills. Yes, he should be in a position to articulate his vision, his idea to the team, to the nation, to the people, whoever his team is. So communication is a very, very important, ingredient. The third is, what is his proficiency levels? He got to be knowledgeable. Where does the proficiency come from? Because you are going to handle a myriad of, topics, subjects. You can't be master of, every topic. So you need to heed to counsel. You should be in a position to listen to people. You should, be ready to take advice. Because you please understand, no one can be the master of every subject in this world. So you should listen to people. You are ready to, heed to counsel. So this is also important. For that to happen, you need to have humility. You should be humble. Otherwise, if you are not a humble guy, if you are a very egoistic guy, you would never be in a position to listen to people. So let's try to crucify this. Let's try to just put the gist of it as, say, integrity. You got to be knowledgeable. If you got to be knowledgeable, you got to be curious. You got to be heeding to counsel, you should be ready to listen. So that will come only if you are a humble person. You should have humility, and you should have communication skills. Communication doesn't mean that you are master of a language, or say 2 languages or 3 languages. It's more about your interpersonal skills, whether you are able to articulate your ideas, whether you are able to articulate your vision to the team. So the first slide, we are talking about what is leadership is all about. We have come to a single point, that is your influence. This influence would only happen if you are able to inspire a team. If you need to inspire, if you got to inspire a team, you got to be a person with impeccable integrity. You got to be a proficient, a knowledgeable person, and you got to be a humble person, and you are able to communicate or articulate your thoughts. You are able to very clearly articulate your ideas to the people around you. So these are very important things that we should understand about ourselves, and have an introspection whether I am able to be a person with impeccable integrity. Do I have empathy towards my colleagues? Do I have empathy towards my teachers? Do I have empathy towards my priest, or my whoever I see across the sphere? Whether are we able to look at each other with respect or not? This is also part of your integrity, right? So this is what would make you a leader in making. If you really feel that I'm really trying to be a person with an impeccable integrity, and also on the other points that we have discussed. So let's go to the next slide. So how do you pursue salespeople? We just talked about sales. I'm just trying to connect both this and sales through or leadership through sales. So the next point is what is how do you pursue salespeople? How many of you are with the marketing as a stream for your management study, or you are MBA finances or more, or say MBA HR? How many of you are marketing and sales? Can I know how many of maybe this? I'm talking to a batch of HR specialization people, or I'm speaking to the marketing specialization. Can anyone speak up, please?
You can give a thumbs up. If it is there is an options, reactions that you can give. Okay, mostly.
Okay, so fine. I think most of you are from sales specialization or marketing specialization. So how do you pursue salespeople? How do you look at a sales job as? You can speak up. There's no problem of speaking up. You don't have to message me always. You can maybe speak up. There is no problem. Fine. I think I'm not getting responses for this. But generally, sales profession, or sales people are not taken as or sales is not taken as a very decent job. People look at sales with a lot of contempt and ridicule, because people think that sales people are maybe liars. They exaggerate a lot of things. So in case if you can say if you would like to say choose a career, would you choose sales as a career? How many of you are very serious about choosing sales as a career? Because I am on full screen, I am not able to see the messages in case you are sending it. So, are there any response for this further?
No. So far there is no response.
There is no response. Okay. Yeah. many a times, I mean, sales is not taken as a great career. People think that, I mean, HR can be a great career because, I mean, you are in the comfort of a confined, I mean, cabin, or say, I mean, you don't have to go out, talk to people, then convince them. People think that, I mean, sales is all about convincing. Sales is not about, I mean, convincing. You don't have to convince, they get convinced. Okay, so you don't have to convince people. So, because the reason is, I'll tell you the very reason for this perception. The perception is, sales is not a great career, maybe, oblivious to the very fact that, I mean, people don't climb up the, ladders without being a good salesperson. Maybe that, I mean, they are in HR, or maybe they are in marketing, they are in sales, they are in service, they are in, any different function of an organization. They don't, I mean, grow up until unless, I mean, they are truly a salesperson by themselves. No need to, I mean, sell anything, but they need to sell themselves, So the very reason is you have people coming into sales, as a last resort. In 1775, Samuel Johnson has told that, I mean, patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. In organizations, last refuge of a scoundrel is sales. In many cases, that's precisely the reason people don't think very great about sales. That is actually not the case. I had seen a lot of great, I mean, salespeople with a lot of good, character, and they are very knowledgeable people. They really help, I mean, their customers. That's our next slide. What is sales? Sales is the flow of goods, services, and information in exchange for money. Or say, I mean, you bridge the gap between the demand and supply. It's a kind of bartering system. You give your services, you give your goods, and they give you money. And this been very on from the prehistoric, I mean, era, because human beings collaborate, and they collaborate to great extent. I remember one book by you all know Harari. It's about a brief history of, I mean, humankind. It's a very good book. I mean, in case you are able to get one copy, I mean, get one copy and read it. It's a great book to read. So it says, I mean, around 3.8 billion years ago, the emergence of, I mean, organisms, beginning of biology. Around 70,000 years back, the cognitive revolution starts. Around 45,000 years back, sapiens settled in Australia, and I mean, then the very history of, I mean, mankind or humankind starts. So from the very history of mankind, you can see sales, the bartering system. It has reached to different levels at this point in time. But the bartering system, the exchanging, I mean, goods or service, or say goods for some service, or goods for money, goods for some favor, all that been happening for donkeys' years. So sales is something, I mean, which is going to stay, which's been there, and it is going to be there. And sales is what we do almost, I mean, every day. Be it, I mean, at your homes. You do quite a good amount of sales with your parents, with your siblings. So sales is not just about exchanging something for money or bridging just a gap. It is, let's go back to the first slide where we talked about, I mean, influencing people. So a good leader would be a good salesperson, and if you aspire to be a good leader, you got to be a good sales guy. You got to be, these are innate, I mean, qualities, innate, I mean, skills. You just maybe need to hone them a little bit more. But otherwise, sales is there in everyone. Everybody is in sales. Selling is also about caring and addressing the customer's pain points. What are you trying to, I mean, bridge? You are trying to bridge a demand. A demand can be a pain area for the customer. Somebody is really looking for something, and they would not even know how to name it. So that they are known as, I mean, unmet needs. There are needs, there are stimulated needs, there are unmet needs. I'm sure, I mean, as MBA students, you would understand, I mean, the pyramid of needs and, the hierarchy of, I mean, all that is being probably, I mean, explained to you better. I would not try to, I mean, explain them again. So selling is something, I mean, which is very, very innate. it comes very naturally, and it is about, I mean, caring and also addressing, I mean, someone's pain points. Selling, in fact, is the ability to improve the condition of somebody's life. Be it, I mean, Christ, be it, anyone, any revolutionary leader, what they generally try to do is, I mean, try to improve the condition of, I mean, people. Anytime you increase the quality of somebody's life, you are making a sale. So there are different types of sales. You have services, you have goods, you have concepts. The services and concepts are known as maybe intangible sales, where, I mean, a person is not able to experience it immediately. Whereas goods is tangible. So you have broadly, I mean, tangible and intangible, I mean, sales. So I a little while ago, I spoke about, I mean, everybody being in sales. Even a company with the best product fails without customers. So it's important that, I mean, we are able to not just, I mean, manufacture the best of products, but we are able to also, I mean, sell them to the customers. Why do people, I mean, come into sales? What all can be people coming into sales? As I told you a little while back, as Samuel Johnson told, I mean, patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And for some, I mean, maybe last resort of a scoundrel is sales. But, for some, it is their inherent satisfaction of, I mean, helping people. There is also a possibility of, I mean, quick career progression. You would not find such easy, I mean, career progression. If you are successful, if you are a performing, sales guy, your career enhancement becomes much more easier. Say you start off as a sales representative, then you go on to become an assistant sales manager, then a sales manager, then from sales manager to maybe a divisional head or a regional sales manager, from there to maybe a general manager, then from there to vice president, then to the president. So, I mean, all that can happen in, I mean, 10, 15 years time. I started off, as I told you, I'm not here to, I mean, prescribe you anything, but I can surely give you my experience, and I can, share that. If that, gives you some signals, some indications, I mean, I would be, grateful. I have started my sales career in the year 2005. At an age of, I think, I mean, I was around 33 years or 34 years at that point in time. That is where I have started my sales career. And I started my sales career as a sales manager for Gujarat for a very difficult, I mean, product. That was a retrofit that will go necessarily into, I mean, industrial customers. That will go as a retrofit to people who are using, I mean, generators. It was a very difficult, I mean, product, because that will replace the liquid fuel with the natural gas. I was finding it very hard to, find, the real target group for, I mean, this kind of a product. So I started off in the year 2005, and 2015, I was appointed as the country head for IPC India. It's an Italian firm. I was taken as a country head for this firm in the year 2015, in the month of February. And I was promoted as managing director, as a whole-time director for the company in the month of, I mean, October. So all it took for me just 10 years from a sales manager to a managing director. So that quick it can, I mean, give you success. That quick it can, I mean, give you a leadership role. I was a sales leader till 2011. From sales leader to a business leader from 2015 till date. These are both are two different things. And being a sales leader is a little more easier. You just need to, I mean, worry about, sales. Whereas when you become a business leader, you need to worry about all the departments. It is not just about, I mean, sales. It is also about service. It's also about training. It's also about, I mean, human resources. It's also about finance, which I never knew anything about, I mean, finance. honestly speaking. I was not into, I was never into, finance. And I started off, as a business leader in the year 2015. And what was the best thing to, know about finance is to ask people, to seek advice, because it is not possible for anyone to, be master of everything. So be humble to, ask, that's very important. So sales is, one area which can give you very, quick career progression. Probably it takes, more than 10 years for a coder or a programmer to become a team leader. And from a team leader to maybe a project head, it takes another 5-6 years time. From a project head to a business leader, it might take, all their life. So I'm not trying to, compare it with any, other, careers or functions. I'm just trying to say you, how performance, how your earnestness in sales can, bring you a greater, career enhancement in a very, very quick, period of time. And sales is a global skill, unlike, other, functions. If you are a doctor, probably, you go to US, you need to, clear, their qualifications. If you are a nurse, before you go to, maybe a different country, you need to give, certain, tests. You need to, really pass their, qualification criteria. Likewise, there are many jobs. If you are an engineer, when you are in US, you need to probably, go for a MS and, things like that. But whereas a sales guy would remain, you need not to give anything, any tests. It is just about, your language. Somebody has told, I still remember, the limit of your language is the limit of your world. So it's important that, you also, as a sales guy, you have a duty unto yourself to, keep learning, keep trying. There would be disappointments. Sure there would be, but don't ever, worry about them. There are disappointments. What are these disappointments or failures? They are like, thorns. As there are inevitable, times in every life that, you step on a thorn, don't you? I think, all of us would have, faced adversities, faced, failures, faced disappointments. But, it is more important that, you don't carry them as your baggage. You keep trying, it is not a pleasurable experience, to, encounter, failures, to encounter, disappointments. It is not a pleasurable feeling. It is not meant to be a pleasurable feeling. Okay. There would be hurdles, there would be disappointments, there would be thorns, but we are focused, at the time of, failures, at the time of, such hindrances, at the time of such, disappointments. We are focused not just on the pain itself, but on the anguish of being singled out. And we ask, why me? Why, all this world, why me? That spoils the entire thing. Because, but in a larger scheme of things, that question is irrelevant, as the pain itself. We realize sooner or later that, these are all, irrelevant things that I thought probably, I got too caught up in a failure and I was thinking too much about it, and I was not able to, come out of it only because, you understand it differently. The very meaninglessness of, you dwell around a failure, you would understand, sooner in your life. So don't worry about, failures. You would find failures. Sometimes, you don't get any sales, and it's about your tenacity. In life, we just cannot avoid pain. There would be some pain, and in my case, there have been, many instances where I thought, I probably not, made a right choice. But then that's where, your resilience matters. Because what finally, the pleasure of, helping people, the pleasure of, success would allow you to forget, I mean, the failures, because it would be more success and less of failures. And of course, I mean, it's a good amount of money. If you are in sales, you have a fixed income. Other than that, I mean, you have also a variable salary. You know, as I told you, I mean, it also gives you a quick career progression. So there are a lot of, I mean, plus a lot of, I mean, advantages. You know, there are a lot of positives about, I mean, being in sales. Regardless of where you are on the professional ladder, you will never stop selling. As I told you, I mean, you know, on my earlier slides, that a good guy would always, I mean, keep influencing people. You know, you would always be in sales, be it of, I mean, you know, any function of your choice. You would still be, I mean, influencing people to be successful. So how to get into, I mean, you know, sales? If you ask me, I mean, how do you get into sales and how do I got into sales? As father was introducing me, he told you all that, I mean, I was in Air Force. I started off when, you know, at an age of 18, I joined Indian Air Force as a technician. You know, I was doing my second year chemistry, and I have joined Air Force in their technical stream. I was put under training for, you know, electrical engineering diploma. That was for 3 years. 1992, I completed my diploma and I was inducted as a regular in Air Force. And I stayed there for almost, I mean, you know, 15 years from 89 till 2005, 15 and a half years. How did I get into sales? And what made me to, I mean, think that sales is probably my cup of tea? I have no right answers for that. But I always thought that, I mean, you know, I have a liking for, I mean, sales. That's where in 2004, I was at my wife's house and we were having our evening tea. And I just looked at the newspaper and I had seen a course being announced by IIM Kozhikode in sales and marketing. It's a 1-year course. And I thought of, I mean, applying for it, and I applied. And there was a, you know, entrance test. There was a GMAT, I mean, you know, EMAT, and there were around, I mean, 1,600 people who appeared, and there were around 100 people who were selected. I was one among them. Then course was for 1 year, you know. In 2005, I quit Air Force without having a job in my hand. You know, that was on 5th of March, and I subsequently joined an organization on 4th of April. So it took almost 29, 25, 26 days for me to, I mean, find a job. But I joined as a sales manager. You know, I was still doing my, you know, IAM sales and marketing, and I have completed it after, you know, during my job. So why did I get into sales is something, I mean, as I told you, probably, I mean, you know, I had that, you know, liking for sales, but because otherwise they had other options as well. But I thought, I mean, sales and marketing is my stuff. And I thought I should, I mean, pursue this than anything else. There were job offers from Reliance at that point in time as a technical supervisor, because they were laying cables all across, I mean, Gujarat at that point in time. I was there in Baroda, and you know, I was offered the very next day of, I mean, my quitting Air Force. I was offered a job by Reliance, but then I was not very keen to join into a technical stream again, because I thought, I mean, you know, again, sales is probably my calling. How do I understand that, I mean, sales is my calling? I joined at an age of 18, you know, because I really wanted to, I mean, get out of my place. You know, I was an average, above average student. I was 18, and I had a miserable first year of, I mean, chemistry. My exams did not go very well. So I thought probably, I mean, you know, I would not, I mean, score much in, you know, my chemistry graduation. I thought I'll, you know, probably seek a job opportunity, and I joined Air Force. And in Air Force, I mean, over a period of time, I thought, the things are getting redundant and there are not much of opportunities. And then I thought I should look for, coming out of Air Force. And when I actually came out, I thought, sales is probably my area. So what I'm trying to say you is this would, gravitate over a period of time. Don't worry about, failures. Don't worry about, your initial choices, because people would scare you saying that the choices that you make are very, very important. And if you miss one choice and then your life is gone. It's nothing like that. From my experience, I really can't say you this is how it is, but I can say you don't worry about one or two disappointments, one or two failures, the things that you did not do correctly, and the choice that you made had gone completely awry. Don't worry about these things. You would always get enough time in your life and enough opportunities in your life that you can get the corrections. You can put yourself into a different, completely different ball game altogether. Life gives you that opportunity. Listen to your guardian angels. When I talk about guardian angels, I remember one guy. His name is Subrata Bakchi. He has written a very beautiful book by the name Go Kiss the World. He is the one who co-founded Mindtree. He has co-founded Mindtree. I'm sure you all would know what is Mindtree is all about. That's a first software company to come out with IPO, and it's a very Indian MNC. I think their net worth would run into billions. It's a very, very successful software firm, Mindtree. It is co-founded by a guy by the name Subrata Bakchi, and he started off his career as a clerk in Odisha secretariat. That too as a part-time clerk. Then he had gone to JCT as a management trainee after his graduation. Then from JCT to HCL to Mahindra to Wipro to finally he co-founded a very, very successful software company, and the first company to offer IPOs. So he co-founded. He started off his career as a part-time clerk, a temporary clerk in Odisha Assembly. Secretariat. So it is not just about the first choice that you make. If the first choice go wrong, and then that's the end of life. It is not that way. You would have enough time to correct it. You got to be a resilient guy. You really need to look at opportunities. You need to really do a self-assessment where your likes are. It took almost 15 years for me to really understand where do I belong to. It took almost 15 years, and I quit a job without having another job in my hand. So it is you are ready. You should be ready to take risks. You should be brave to take such risks in your life. There's nothing wrong. You can make one mistake, two mistakes, three mistakes. Don't worry about it. We are all human beings. We will make a lot of mistakes, but have the resilience to correct them. To look forward. To really pursue your likes. So there are courses which are available. Like I have done one in IAMK. There are many of such courses which are available for working professionals. If you just completed a management graduation from any one of the management institutes, and you still want to make it a little more glorious one, you still have an opportunity. So don't worry about all these things. It is not that it would make a very huge difference in your life. It is your earnestness which will make a difference in your life. It will be your disciplined hard work that will make a very big difference. So there are a lot of courses, short certificate courses in sales, and management and customer service management, sales and distribution courses, specialist postgraduate courses. There are internships. All that is available. You just need to keep your eyes and ears open. Where to study? This is again. There are a lot of institutes. There are almost. All IIMs are now. Offering courses for working professionals. If you are not able to get through through a GMAT, or don't worry about it. In case, I mean, you really want to, I mean, do it from the premier management institutes, they are still available, online, interactive distance learning, all that is still possible. There are other, institutes which has regular courses. I mean, there's a list. I'm sure all of you are net savvy, young generation students. You don't need my counsel on this. You can, I mean, just browse through and you would find a lot of them. So I just, I mean, designed it in such a way that, I mean, we are able to conclude this by 4:45, 4:50, and then I can take your questions. So leadership is about influence. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. You know who told this? This is told by, I mean, a pastor, John Calvin, Maxwell. He is a pastor, but he has written, I mean, great books on leadership, irrefutable laws of leadership, 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. They are all, I mean, 70 lakh and more, hot selling, I mean, books. So if you, in case, I mean, you get a little time, develop, I mean, your interest in reading, because there are really great books. It is not just about leadership that, I mean, you should read on, but there are, a lot of good books around. I think, I mean, you should, really inculcate, the habit of, I mean, reading. That's all I think, I mean, I have prepared as sales slides. You can, I mean, ask me questions in case you have any.
So anyway, thank you, Tony sir. Now the floor is open. You can share your questions. You can unmute and ask the questions one after another. Okay, let me just begin with this. Managerial skills are very normal and natural to every individual. As I have told in the beginning, even children, they express among their peer, their siblings, at their playground, even while studying or bringing their narratives evident and believing. They use all these managerial skills, and that is there for everyone. But many a time people are not able to identify, then connect and develop them to a professional management course or field. So how to connect that? I mean, how that connection can be done through a management course, connecting oneself to the management area.
Okay. I think, as Father also very very clearly specified, or say, I mean, mentioned that managerial skills are natural. Everyone has, I mean, natural managerial skills. We managers, we manage our home, we manage, I mean, a play group, we manage a lot of things in our life. What is the difference? The difference is only whether we are able to, I mean, put in a disciplined hard work. One, whether we are able to structure our thoughts. Say, for example, now we have a product and we want to, I mean, sell that product, or we want to, globally sell that product, or say, I mean, we want to, I mean, promote a product. How do we do that? That's where, I mean, maybe Philip Kotler comes into picture. That's where, I mean, your management studies will come into picture. We talk about marketing as 4 P's: the product, promotion, place, and price. There are 4 things. So when you really want to, I mean, look at maybe, selling a product or creating a marketing program to, I mean, sell a product, you would understand, I mean, every aspect of the game revolves around this 4 P's. That is, how is the product? Or say, how do you promote this product? How do you channelize it? What kind of channels you would utilize for, I mean, placing this in front of a customer? Then what is the price? What should be the pricing strategy? This will give you, when you, approach it very methodically, or say structurally, it would really help you to, I mean, understand it a little better, and maybe, sell them a little better than, probably without with only our common sense. Though, I mean, management is all about common sense, nothing more than common sense. But it helps you to, probably put your focus and invest your time, energy, money into the right places instead of, dithering out or say getting distracted. So a management study is all about, maybe it will not make you wiser, but it will make your, thought process into a more structured, commercially structured way. I would call it as that. I hope I addressed the question further.
Sure. Now the participants, if you have, you can unmute and ask. Okay, now during this COVID time, lockdowns, and so much of breakdown for the business, there is a shift happening in all the marketing, managerial, in all the areas. So how this shift can benefit, because this shift is a transition from one point to the other, to the next level. So the youngsters, especially the youngsters who are participating, they need to benefit this transition, and they need to prepare themselves for leaders of new age. So what way these MBAs have to prepare themselves to be leaders for the new normal in the field of marketing and managerial skills?
Okay. Father, I think, they don't have to do anything, extraordinary, according to me. The very reason is, we had seen such interruptions or disruptions happening, in the way of, internet. When internet was introduced, say when, computers were introduced, when such disruptions have happened even in the past also. There is no way other than, you need to evolve yourself according to the time. A good management student or a management professional has to evolve himself. Now, if I say, maybe you got to be a little more, concentrating on digital literacy, that would be not a proper statement, because it is not just true for, many industries like FMCG. Say, it is again, the profitability what matters. It is about, whether you are able to reach the products in time or not, what is your distribution structure. So nothing is getting changed even during the COVID time. Okay, you got to get these products to the customer's doorstep. So there is no way, you have disruptions because of COVID, but end of the day, it has to reach to the customer. Now, reaching to the customer in person as a sales guy, maybe in many an industry, it can be avoided, because, at this point in time, to my company or to my salespeople, a lot of customers are saying not to come. Please don't come. You can send a video, you can send maybe, the product literature, we can have a video call. All that is a part of, evolution. I don't think, this is something you need to prepare, differently for, this is again, what is more important for all of you to, understand is, don't get scared because of COVID, because it's very important to understand this. The demand is shackled. It is not, it has not got killed. The demand still stays there. It is only shackled. You got to, it will get unshackled the moment, the COVID is over. So the demand for certain product line, like, milk products, vegetables, the perishable goods, or maybe perishable services like, air tickets or movie tickets, or say, your gym or club membership, all that maybe, they are perishable, and there you would find a little trouble. But in most other cases, when it comes to, goods, the demand is only delayed, or demand is only, shackled at this point in time. They will get unshackled again. So nothing, extraordinary that you have to do, but you got to be, an evolving professional. You need to evolve according to the time. That's one. Second, somebody has told me, in the beginning of the session, that you got to be creative. Absolutely. If you really want to be, climbing up ladders, you really want to, go up, in your career, you got to be creative. This is, an inseparable, quality. You got to be creative. You just can't, be in your deep slumber. You need to be evolving. You need to be, keep trying. That's all. Nothing more. I'm talking about my experience for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The participants, if they want to chat, you can write also your questions in the chat box. That way also you can communicate. Okay.
In fact, I would invite, the participants to, ask questions you want to, I would be more than happy to share my experience. And please understand, it is my unique experience. It is not a universal truth, so it is my experience. I am just trying to, help you with my experience.
So you have been, as you have already shared, at a very young age, at the age of 18, you have just tried for Air Force, joined 15 years of service there. Then you have shifted. So you have understood. You have told Reliance has asked you to be there for as a technical manager and all, but you opted for managerial or sales, those areas. So what are the skills that forced you, even some experiences? Something forced you from so-called internal force to be there. That is also a selection and decision to be there at sales. So can you just share?
I think, we had a shop, father. We had a shop, and at an age of 9 onwards, I used to go and help my brother, my father. From 9 till I joined Air Force, almost 9 years. And I was, in the shop, maybe selling, certain things to, people. And the very, the happiness of, being with people to, to meet different people, new people, maybe that would have excited me, or it would have, probably there in me. That might be the reason that over a period of time it has gravitated you to sales more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even can you just suggest, even for the, as I have told, from the younger age we have these managerial skills. So if someone who wanted to be there in the management sales areas, so what are the skills they need to develop in themselves to be, the basic skills, the core skills they have to develop in them to have good say in their field?
Fine. As I also have mentioned, what is more important is whether you are able to articulate, articulate well, whether it be it your ideas or be it, your vision. Whether you are able to sell that vision. How do you sell that vision? You need to have a communication which is, a rich communication. So the most important thing is, you need to probably, be more focused on, your communication, and all other, natural skills. You need to identify them, whether you are able to, influence people or not, whether, you really like, talking to people, whether you are really having an interest to, meeting heterogeneous people. The most important thing, what from my experience, I would say, displacement. This is something which would really help people. Don't be in the comfort of, your city. Don't be in the comfort of, your, in the family. Be ready to displace yourself. Get exposed. Become a little more, cosmopolitan. Come out of, your, shell. Talk to people. Adapt, different cultures. Assimilate. These are things would really help a person in his overall perspective. And if your overall perspective is, in the right direction, and your communication would be rich. It is not just about, your language. As I told you, you also need to put a focus on your language, but your communication is more to do with interpersonal skills. This is not something that, somebody can give you in capsule or in a capsulated form. You need to have an interesting personality. You should be ready to, ready to be telling stories. For that, your story should be, put across to people. If you have to put across your story to people, you need to have the skills of articulation. This would come only when, you move from one place, meet different people, talk to different people, get displaced, struggle a little in the beginning. When you go to a new place, when you are displaced, you would know how to survive. So that would teach you the necessary skills. So be ready to be out of, I mean, your comforts. So this is what I can suggest them.
Okay, here, Tony sir, can you see Alina has put a question in the chat box? Can you just read, Alina?
I'll just read. Yeah. Alina has, sir, sales career is a task oriented and it also want to fulfill the targets. Is it right, sir? You tell me one function which doesn't have a deadline, which doesn't have a timeline, which doesn't have, I mean, risk involved. Tell me any career, any career path is only, full of process. Is there anything which pays you less, which probably gives you less stress, is which will not ask you to stretch, or the jobs will not pay you more also, right? You need to be ready for certain risk. And there are, I think, I mean, at currently all organizations, for all functions, there are different timelines, there are different targets. Maybe sales has a very accountable specific target that you have to meet this many, I mean, numbers, or say you need to reach here in a specific time period. But that is true for, I mean, other functions as well. If you are a coder, I mean, there are some days where you need to, I mean, complete it before, I mean, say 12 o'clock in the night, and you are given just 3 days. So this is there everywhere. It is again, I mean, the inhibition, or how do you pursue sales as? Sales is not a different function. It's a very interesting function. It is not something, I mean, which would, you don't be scared of sales. Be really passionate about, meeting people, talking to them, solving their problems. That's what sales is all about. And I'm sure, I mean, once you are in, you would enjoy it.
Thank you. So, sir, already Indians are outshining in the world market as managers, heads, CEOs.
Correct.
So, what is the so-called unique characteristics of Indians, and especially as the audience mostly are Keralites? So, is there any positive qualities that we as a Keralite has? So if that can be developed and strengthened as a powerful so-called weapon to be a good manager. So have you found such any positive qualities, or qualities that are to be even solved or modified, transformed?
Okay. Father, I mean, I think, I mean, the question is quite nice, interesting. But I think, I mean, Keralites moved to different, I mean, places because we did not have much of opportunities there in Kerala or in India. There are very less, I mean, opportunities were available at that point in time. That's the reason why we have moved. I mean, Indians have moved. I mean, the people who have done IITs or IIMs, they moved to, I mean, different places, US, because that's a sunrise country where, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities. So we moved there. Then we are people who had come through a lot of chaos in our life. We had gone through a lot of stuff. I mean, because the amenities are limited. I mean, the opportunities were limited. So we tried, I mean, putting our best at, I mean, wherever we had gone. Having said that, I mean, I think Keralites really are people who are, ready to explore, ready to take risks. These are good things. If you go anywhere, I mean, people just did not stay in the comfort of, I mean, their families, or in the comfort of, I mean, God's own country. They really had ventured out. They had gone to different, field, into different, I mean, countries, and wherever they had gone with their hard work, with their consistent, I mean, hard work, they have really changed their fortunes, and also changed their company's fortunes. There are a lot of companies which are the fortunes are changed by, I mean, Keralites. So that's basically because, I mean, we are an a community who is ready to explore, and we move out. We are ready to be displaced. And maybe the younger generation might not have those compelling, I mean, situation to leave their comfort and go. That's the reason why I told in my earlier slide that, I mean, we should be ready to get displaced. We move out and we seek. One thing, I mean, what can really help our people is, it is important that, I mean, they get assimilated to the culture they move into. than just keeping, ethnicities are good. You should keep your ethnicity intact, but don't be in the cocoon of your ethnicity. It is also important that you just reach out from your ethnicity, and you reach out to different cultures, and probably make your communication a little more richer, your language a little more richer. This can help.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Yeah. Vipin.
Sir, myself, Bivin Varghese. I
Yes.
am a student of Bharat Mata Institute of Management.
Yes.
So my question is, what is the importance of sales choosing as a career for an MBA student?
Okay. Sales is, as I told you, it's a very interesting field. It can give you good money. It can give you good, career progression. It can also give you a lot of, satisfaction in terms of, helping people. Because you would be meeting heterogeneous, people. You would not, remain in the homogeneity of an office. You would move out. You would meet customers. You would become, worldly wise. You would also become, proficient over a period of time in different, topics. So I think, it's a very, very interesting field. But be consistent. Be ready for disappointments as well. Nothing would happen. Keep trying. It's about the tenacity. The power of, holding on to it, would really make a big difference. So don't worry about, maybe you have some initial setbacks, but don't get, overly perturbed or, anxious about it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we are always thinking of higher order skills to have trained among students. That is the aim of education, professional training, and especially critical thinking, problem solving, analyzing the situation. And these are all very much required for sales people. And now, especially during this COVID time, you are managing director of companies, and that exposure and that responsibility is very huge. And how did you take this problem, and how did you solve? Your own personal experience in the company, in the organization, how did you analyze this COVID exposure challenges? Also, how did you problem? What are the steps? What are the ways? How did you deal with these things?
Okay, I just need to, understand more specifically from you. You're talking about the revenue loss, or you're talking about, the health issues, or you're talking about, the supply chain issues, because, there are a myriad of problems, cropped up by, COVID. It is not just one problem. One is, you have a good chunk of, 20-30% of, your revenue has been washed away because of, lockdown, and because of the arresting of demand, all that has actually resulted in good decline in sales numbers. One, when your top line, that is sales numbers, come down, you also have a problem of your bottom line, your profitability. If your profitability is affected, you have a problem of sustainability. Sustainability in terms of, you have a fixed amount of, overheads. You have your employees, you have your warehouses, you have your rented properties, you have cars. A lot of stuff. Where the things are fixed. You need to pay them whether you have sales or not. So you have certain fixed expenditures. Then you also have health issues of your staff. You also need to understand whether it is safe to send them out, and because end of the day the employees are the asset of the organization. So the problems that I faced and how did I overcome them, I would say the problems were of three different nature. One is the demand got delayed, so the sales was not happening. Then the second is when the profitability actually dwindled, because your sales had come down, there is a decline, there is a depression in sales. You always have a problem of profitability. Profitability, if the profitability comes down, then there is a problem of sustainability. Whether you can sustain your employees, whether you can, we have not done any major steps because we thought that it's all temporary. And I think we were almost right in thinking so, because from May onwards last year we started functioning, and by August we were full-fledged. Otherwise also our dispatches were happening, so our critical supplies never got affected, except for the months of March, where there was a unexpected lockdown happened on 23rd of March last year. But I think from April towards the end of April onwards last year, the dispatches, the supplies were started functioning almost normally, and by August everything was full-fledged. From August till December, the sales was not picking up greatly, but average sales was happening. So we were not overly worried, concerned about it. And in the month of January, February, March, we had superb months in the first quarter of this year. That has compensated for all that we lost last year in terms of sales. These 3 months have really compensated for almost the lean period of sales for last 7-8 months of last year. So one is, I thought it is only demand is delayed, nothing which is of a permanent nature. Even now I don't think it's of a permanent nature. Things would come back to normalcy because the human the population has to survive, they have to consume, they would keep buying things, and that would roll the cycle of money flow. So I am, even now I am not overly worried about it. The second part is our people, because we very strictly adhere to all COVID protocols in our organization. Wherever there was a lockdown, we did not go for any adventures. We completely we're ready to abide by them, and we have almost abide by all the government rules. And we, as of till date, we did not have much of fatalities, no fatality at all in my organization so far, by God's grace. And health issues, of course, including me, there have been a lot of people in my organization who were affected with COVID. Now, did we do anything, very separately to, address the situation? We thought one area was, getting affected. That was, the employees' orientation to work on a, day-to-day basis, on a regular basis, because you were at the comfort of, your homes. Not everyone can be, really, self-motivate themselves to, work as regularly as they are in office. So we thought, this is the time we should get our people engaged. So we started, our trainings for our back office. We started training sessions almost on a regular basis for our sales team, for our service team. So because we thought this is maybe, a disaster, we should not make this into a catastrophe. This is a problem, a period of, problem. We need to address it by, maybe keeping people engaged, more engaged, and making them more proficient, keeping them motivated, even during, work from home regime. So we started off a lot of, training programs and kept the organization agile. And I think, that has paid off immediately after, the unlock or was announced, or say the lockdown was lifted. I think, the organization was again back on its feet, very agile, absolutely ready for the day. So I think, we have trained our more focus on, training our people during this time.
How do you experience the youngsters? There are many who have completed the MBAs and they should be approaching you for work, job. So how do you evaluate the quality of the youngsters after their MBAs as they approach you for the job?
No, I think, I mean, see, each one has a unique, I mean, they are all unique. I mean, there is nothing wrong with quality. I think, I mean, the MBAs, whether you study them from, I mean, Harvard, or say from IIM, for IITs, or from, I mean, any premier institute, or from anywhere. I mean, it is not just about, I mean, the qualification, or the quality of, I mean, your teachers, what, what you absorb, what you imbibe out of, I mean, your program. How earnest you are in understanding, I mean, your concepts, because your conceptual understanding would really help you. There were 9 people joining me from, I mean, Christ University. We have taken management trainees, 9 of them. We still have 1 person, I mean, in our regular roles. Others, for various reasons, they left, but we are open. I mean, we also would like to, I mean, experiment. We also would like to, I mean, give opportunity to youngsters, because I really feel that, I mean, each person is unique, and if they are progressively engaged with an organization, they can also hone their skills. It is important that, I mean, you keep trying. It is not just, I mean, 1 year is not an answer. It gives you maybe some exposure, but for you to get, I mean, quality experience, it takes a little more time. You would you would also understand, I mean, and also will gravitate towards, I mean, your real likes of a function, when you are ready to, I mean, spend a good quantum of, I mean, time to a function. So we are, as an organization, ready for, I mean, youngsters. I have no problem in looking at youngsters. We as I told you, I mean, we have taken 9 people from Christ University. We are open to it, and I think, I mean, they when they complete, or they can also maybe approach us. There is no problem.
Okay, I mean, we are very positive and open to accept the individuality, unique
Yeah.
qualities, but still, exactly what you are looking from the youngsters or new officers. What are exactly?
Okay, if you come for, I mean, say, for a job interview, one is, I mean, I would like to understand, I mean, whether they are curious. They are curious as an individual. When they come, they are ready to learn or not. Whether my organization has or they are trainable or not, because I know, I mean, I need to really invest time, money on them, for them to be, useful for the organization, and for them, that job to be beneficial. I should be, I mean, investing time and energy, money on them. So I'm ready to train, I mean, these people, but I would like to know whether they're trainable or not. Whether they are curious or not, they are ready to learn or not. Whether they are earnest individual, because as I told you, I mean, it's again, I mean, the integrity is one of the major qualities that, I mean, we look in people. And integrity is not just about honesty, because many of the youngsters, I mean, maybe interpret it that way, that integrity is honesty. It is not just about honesty. Honesty is one part of it. Integrity is, I mean, whether you are able to, I mean, put consistent hard work or not. It is not about, I mean, your academic score. It is just not about your academic score. But once you complete, I mean, 2 years of, I mean, your MBA study, you should know at least the concepts. That will show your earnestness in your, studies. So there would be questions which is more related to, I mean, the concepts and what is your understanding about them. It is not about a by-hearted, I mean, definition. It is what is your understanding and how do you interpret a concept. So these are the things we generally look in a fresher who comes in for an interview. We would see, I mean, whether he's an honest individual or not. One, whether he is ready to learn. There is a trainability of this individual or not. So these are simple, I mean, 1 or 2 things that, I mean, we would do probing, and that's how we select people.
So, anyone has any queries, questions? Okay. Anyway, it is time for us to just conclude the session. So, just a word of thanks. It was a very positive session, to have to have such a positive interaction with Mr. Tony. And the very basic thing is it was all sharing from the organizational platform. Okay, though academically very much rich, the basic orientation was to connect these youngsters, the classrooms, concepts they learn, to the very practical field. So exposure to the field. From that organizational setup, Mr. Tony was very much sharing from the core. And surely, I know Tony Chetan very much because he is also leading our church community at Okala, also contributing very much, not in his office, so-called company, but in all the levels, very systematically, and solving the needs of the time, and even futuristic, that leadership to develop the skills of the youngsters. So much he is contributing and giving his time, energy, and everything that is very much experienced by me. So that person, that leader, the sharing of an experienced, successful, passionate leader, that is what we were experiencing here. And the personal sharings which you were solving, I mean, in your own organization, how you were dealing with the challenges and the ways, the methodology, and the analytical methods you were using, all have been shared. So you were building a bridge between the classroom and the field. So thanks a lot for this wonderful session. And in order to bring this session alive, the students and the faculty, the directors from management schools of Naibunya, Pongam and Chertala, then Bharat Mada College MBA department, the directors, especially the fathers, then the department heads, teachers, all were actively participating. Even in the YouTube, they were always remarking, responding to the questions, and they were very interactive in the YouTube session. So there were also many people. So I am so thankful for the all these three, Bharat Mada College, the Naibunya Chertala and Naibunya Pongam, and all the faculty, directors, teachers, also the fathers, heading fathers. So thanks to everyone, and also the participants. Make benefit of this. This is basically meant to My Career, My Identity series is basically meant to help the youngsters. It is not just understanding one stream, one area of professional area, but to connect yourself, your skills. That is what Tony sir was explaining to us. What is the core skills that I have been experiencing from my childhood, and how I was able to connect those things to the professional area. And for that, Tony sir has given a great decision in his life. After the Air Force, decided to be, then got training in IIM Kozhikode, then got into now managing director. So thanks a lot, Tony sir, and to all the participants and all the three colleges. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Father. Thank you very much for giving me a platform, and thank you for your great initiative and the great work of hand-holding the youngsters. I see it as a very, very innate quality that you always are concerned, always a thinking mind, how to help and handhold the youngsters. Great work, Father. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thanks a lot. And every Sunday at the same time we have discussions, and the coming 2 Sundays also there will be management related discussions. So welcome again to everyone. Thanks to all. So we
thank you all the participants for your active participation and questions. You all kept this session very live.